Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video. This is a really interesting article that I found that has to do with the Rebel Moon story, and that was something that, of course, as script trooper is very important to me. And I wanted to share it with you guys because I'm actually kind of surprised to a degree at the extent of this. When it was revealed that Snyder was kind of denied a Star Wars film, and now we know he's claiming at least that he brought this proposal to Warner Brothers as well, and they also rejected it. And I'm wondering to what extent had he come up with this story and these ideas and what he presented to these production houses, because this is really extensive. I'm kind of surprised. I guess I shouldn't be, because this is what you should do. This seems like a very well planned out series of stories, and I guess I'm so used to things like the Disney sequel trilogy, Star Wars sequel trilogy, and such. They just sort of wing everything. Feels like they're winging it in the TV shows as well. So let's get into this. Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon universe and story explained. Zack Snyder is building a massive world in Rebel Moon, and so Screen Rant was able to go onto the set and discuss some of the things with them and whatnot. So Zack Snyder's newest sci-fi universe, Rebel Moon, has a massive story that goes even beyond the first two movies, and Screen Rant got a glimpse at the larger universe story during our visit to the Rebel Moon set on October 2022. The franchise is about to arrive on Netflix in 2 parts. Okay, we know all that stuff. He's already shot 2 movies, by the way. He gained prominence as the director of his larger-than-life epics like 300 before eventually taking the reins of DC Universe with Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, before notoriously being removed as director from Justice League during post-production. Okay, now he's behind the original IP with Rebel Moon. However, the shackles are off, and he's making this story as big and epic as possible. The shackles are off. Does that mean the studio is actually allowing him to do what he wants? The Imperium has been in power hundreds, if not thousands of years, going all the way back to the beginning of recorded history, and in that time they developed advanced technology, towering architecture, and a massive army they used to conquer new planets and assimilate their cultures. As a colonialist empire, they're hardly the good guys, but with a rich royal tradition and sense of nobility, the culture is more civilized. The worlds that join the Imperium, voluntarily or not, benefit in some ways, as people have opportunity to gain their own status in the Imperium through participation in the military through other means. So right away you have an established universe, similar to Star Wars, I guess, in the sense of the original Star Wars comes out and there's the Galactic Empire. The royal family is guarded by a knightly order of robots, the Jimmies, who are programmed to protect and serve the king and await the arrival of the mythical Princess Issa, who is prophesied to bring peace to the galaxy. The Jimmies bear a lot of potent symbolism relating to the Imperium and the royal family on their elaborate armor, including the symbols of a snake, a chalice, and a wolf, all of which are prominent symbolism everywhere in the movies as well. In his Caesar-style assassination, the king was killed by someone in his inner circle, and Regent Belisarius Fra-Fee takes his place. Despite the coup, the slain king is still held in a place of high regard. According to Ed Skrein, Admiral Atticus Noble is a loyal representative of the slain king, but also loyal to Belisarius. Imagery of the slain king is still prominent throughout the Imperium, even including their currency, which features an eagle on one side and with the face of a slain king and a wolf on the other side. Imperium soldiers have similar imagery of an eagle and the slain king. Okay, so the slain king is popular. Belisarius is far more vicious than the slain king. According to Snyder, the Regent Belisarius, he's more like a dictator, like he'd be happy to raise a planet just for its natural resources rather than like, oh, we should like land and see what the people are like, and maybe some of them can fight for us, and like maybe we should assimilate their culture into ours, where it was a much more sort of 18th century imperialism, where now the Imperium is much more aggressive than that was aggressive, and now it's worse. Okay, so new dictator, not good. Under the more dictatorial leadership of Belisarius, the Imperium also begins to decay culturally. Where there was an appreciation for art and culture shown in impressive stained glass windows and towering architecture, the Imperium begins to decay into a more utilitarian focus and more brutalistic aesthetic. And you know what's funny about that? You kind of almost see that now. Like, you look at the architecture of the past. It was so gorgeous, really. Go to Europe, places like that. And now it's just ugly, boring cubes. It's just not. It's not as nice. This is kind of interesting. I'm sure a lot of this is inspired by things that have actually happened, of course. According to producer Deborah Snyder, was that his wife? There's the notion that after the royal family's death, everything became. There wasn't an formality, or they didn't try to advance. They were just war machines. So everything was very practical, and you'll see it even with the costumes, the way they look, and then the way they currently look. It's like they still have all the detail, but it's just not taken care of like it was when the king was alive, and all of that kind of gets lost, that appreciation of the art of everything. Yeah, well, that's literally what happens. I mean, there's a reason why America has produced 20 times the artwork as the rest of the world combined in the last 200 years. Because they were the freest society. That's starting to dwindle now, but they were the freest society. And the art in the United States is also getting worse. Movies are getting worse. Cora, who had some significance with the Imperium military, went into hiding on the farming planet of Velt in the wake of the king's death. The loyalty previously seen in the Imperium military has eroded, as former leaders like General Titus go into exile, leaving the Imperium military to far more ruthless figures like Admiral Noble and the Kryptian soldiers, whose prop master Brad Elliott describes as old soldiers who stayed with from the old regime to the new regime are now these sorts of super soldiers, and whether they're jacked up on drugs or whether they just have training, or they're really good because they survived, don't really know exactly, but they carry swords which are sort of a foil to the Nemesis swords. Okay, so the Imperium goes too far. The Bloodaxe Rebellion, led by Darian Bloodaxe and his sister Devra Bloodaxe, begin liberating Imperium slaves such as Milius to join their insurgency. Admiral Noble takes on the responsibility of squashing the rebellion. As Ed Skrein says, his motivation is to find these insurgents and bring them back to satisfy the Senate, to perhaps gain a seat in the Senate, to satisfy his father, Dominic Noble, and to perhaps gain a higher standard that has not been set out to the corners of the galaxy. Meanwhile, the Jimmies have lost their purpose, as revealed in the trailer, voiceover by one particular Jimmy, voiced by Anthony Hopkins. I was given memories of a world I will never see, loyalty to a king I cannot serve, and love for a child I could not save. Aimless after the death of the slain king and the death of Princess Issa, or, well, the assumed death, I should say, of Princess Issa, the Jimmies lose their drive and become disrespected labor drones for the Imperium, which Zack Snyder dubs as glorified forklifts. Okay, so you can kind of see where he's going with this. So Princess Issa is presumed dead. Now, when they find out she's alive, the Jimmies will, of course, have a purpose, and she's got people backing her, basically, at that point. And so the basic plot of Rebel Moon is inspired by Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, so the general story behind the flashbacks should be pretty familiar, as it's been influenced numerous other movies, including The Magnificent Seven, Star Wars, A Bug's Life. The small farming community on the planet Velt, where Cora fled after the death of the king, lives mostly untouched by the Imperium until they find soldiers at their door demanding their next harvest to feed the Imperium war machine. And Cora knows this isn't a simple transaction or one-time occurrence, telling Den in the trailer that the Imperium wants everything. Following the Seven Samurai structure, Cora sets out to travel to a number of other planets to find strong warriors who will aid Velt in the defense of their farm from the Imperium. The story is currently split across two movies, Rebel Moon, A Child of Fire, and Rebel Moon, The Scargiver. I always found that Scargiver kind of a weird title. I don't know. But Snyder suggests the war against the Imperium is only just getting started in these first two installments. Okay, so he's got a major universe building going on here. It is a movie that even in its concept would beg for a follow-up regardless of whether you made only one, because the Empire is gigantic, the Imperium is ridiculously huge, and you blow up one ship, and they're not going to be happy about it. You know, it's not like you're like, they'll never come back now, yay. I mean, at the end of the movie, there is the way we designed it is that they kind of are on the offensive at the end. You know they have to kind of bring the fight to them, because otherwise they can't wait. Snyder confirmed books, graphic novels, video games are in the works, so it's clear the first two Rebel Moon movies are going to scratch the surface of the larger story this universe will tell. Netflix has really been supportive, and the bet paid off with the Army of the Dead franchise so far. So if the trend continues, Snyder has a lot more Rebel Moon stories. So the reason I brought this article up in part is because Snyder clearly had a plan for this story, and we know he's got at least 3 that he's going to make. But he clearly had a clear plan of what he was going to do before he started. It's obvious where he's drawing his inspiration. And that's how you make a good story. I'm not saying it's going to be good. I don't know for sure. It could have lots of big problems. It sounds okay. It sounds like it's going to be half decent. It looks like it's going to be half decent. But the odds of it making sense and being okay or good or great is because he has a plan. You know, he's written everything in advance. He's got stories lined up. He's got the universe building going on. which is so contrast to what Disney did with the sequels, where we all obviously know with J.J. Abrams' comments that they didn't have a plan at all. And we know that anyway, because we know really it was just a pissing contest between two directors. J.J. did his thing, Rian Johnson stomped on that, and then J.J. turned around and said, no, I'm stomping on what you did then. And people, it's funny to me, there's people on Twitter like, oh, it's because fans complain that they changed everything. Nah. No, it's because the two directors were fighting. So ultimately, that responsibility falls on Kathleen Kennedy, that she is the president of Lucasfilm. She hired these directors, and instead of having everybody sit down and create a proper story before even starting to film, they rushed to film to try and make some of the money back that they spent. And now it's just been a disaster ever since. And the TV shows are also a disaster, and they're not being planned out very well. They're not taking the time. I would really like to know how long Zack Snyder's been working on this. It's got to be a few years that he's had this in his mind. But there's a lot of good things. Like the detail is really good. It's kind of the level of detail you would expect from a major motion picture or very high-end TV show. So I guess we'll see. I think it looks pretty cool personally. I want to hear what you guys think in the comments section. I mean, does it make sense that somebody actually has a plan? And does it look like Zack Snyder's actually going to do something pretty cool with this? Just let me know what you think. I'll be reviewing and focusing on a certain degree of Rebel Moon content, along with all my usual stuff, my Star Wars content, and some other stuff as well. Please like and subscribe if you like my content, and feel free to check any of my other videos out, including my sequels reimagined and any of my other videos. Thanks for listening, and have a good day.